Hello coders! Welcome to Fast Coder 21 free medical coding YouTube channel. Today's session we are going to learn best tips to find medical coding jobs in Australia. The objectives of this today's session include what is Australian healthcare system, who is a clinical coder, what are the books needed to in order to learn Australian medical coding. So we will see code analysis and also we will see what is the certification for Australian medical coding and we will see how can we set jobs in Australia. So what is Australian healthcare system? Healthcare services in Australia are funded by the Australian government and by private health insurance. As usual, there are also government fund and as well as the private health insurances. So Australia's public healthcare system is called Medicare. Medicare provides healthcare for Australian residents for free or at a reduced cost. It is paid for out of taxes that every Australian pays. So basically in Australia also we have two types of health insurance. First one is Australian government funded one. Second one is private health insurance. So usually we will call Australia's public healthcare system as Medicare. As so this Medicare provides free healthcare to Australian residents. Next, who is a clinical coder? So usually in Australia, they will call coder as a clinical coder, not like medical coder as usually we will call it in USA and India. So clinical coders convert clinical information from patients' medical records into alphanumeric codes according to a health classification system. These codes form part of data collection which is used for research, funding and healthcare planning. So usually whether if you take clinical coder or medical coder, we will convert clinical information from patients' medical records into alphanumeric codes according to health classification system. For example, if you take in US, ICD-10, CM, CPT as well as PCS. Further, we are going to learn Australian medical coding process. So what are the benefits of this coding? So these codes form part of a data collection which is used for research, funding and healthcare planning. As usual, US also same purpose of the medical coding. Next, what are the books needed for Australian medical coding? So in order to learn or know Australian medical coding, we need few books here. So first one is ICD-10 AM. So AM means Australian modification. So ICD-10 AM volume 1 which is alphabetic and volume 2 which is tabular. So converting the diseases and injuries into alphanumeric codes. As usual in US or India we will use ICD-10 CM clinical modification, but in Australia they will call it as ICD-10 AM which is Australian modification. We have alphabetic and tabular two volumes. So using this ICD-10 AM we will convert diseases and injury into alphanumeric codes. So if you see here, for diagnosis, they will use International Statistical Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems, 10th revision, Australian modification, ICD-10 AM. So for diagnosis, they will use ICD-10 AM. For procedures, they will use Australian Classification of Health Interventions. So in ICD-10 AM and this ACHA, we have tabular as well as alphabetic index. So IC10AM we have tabular index as well as the alphabetic index and Austrian classification of health interventions also, like usually we will call it as these are the procedures. Here we have alphabetic index as well as the tabular. So where do we use ACHA? Application of codes to the medical procedure. So basically procedures we will use ACHA. So next we have ACS, Australian Coding Standards. So ACS, Australian Coding Standards are the guidelines which we will use in order to code using ICD-10 AM and ACHI. And also as usual, you need to have anatomy and medical terminology books. So here are the books. This one is ICD-10 AM tabular list. This is ICD-10 AM in alphabetic index. This is ACHI, and this is AACS means Australian Coding Standards, which we will use for guidelines in order to code using ICD-10 AM as well as ACHI. Usually we will use ACHI for procedure coding. So basically you need 5 books here. First one is ICD-10 AM Volume 1 Alphabetic Index and Volume 2 Tabular. ACHI Volume 1 Alphabetic and Volume 2 Tabular. These are for procedures. So ACS Australian Coding Standards are for overall guidelines required in order to code using ICD-10 AM and ACHI. Usually ACHI volume 1 and volume 2 we will use for application of codes to the medical procedures. Now we will see what is the code looks like in Australian medical coding. So first we will check classifying diseases with ICD-10 AM. So for example, if you take star K57.32. So this star means this symbol resembles like denotes or indicates Australian modification to ICD-10. As all of us know, ICD-10 is published by World Health Organization, but based on the country's requirement, they will publish their guidelines using the World Health Organization ICD-10. So if we check the K means chapter K002 to K93 chapter 11 disease of the digestive system. So next we have 57. So 57 denotes diverticular disease of intestine. Next block K55 to K64 other disease of intestine. So in order to understand ICD-10 AM, we need to divide the complete code into blocks. So the star indicates it is a Austen modification to ICD-10. So this K indicates chapter which is digestive system. So this 57 indicates this is the category diverticular disease of intestine. So if you combine all these blocks, it will get diverticulitis of large intestine without perforation, abscess or mention of hemorrhage. Now we will check ACHI, which is the procedural coding system in Australian medical coding. So for example, if you take 913, which is the block for colectomy. For example, if you take 01, this is the extension. So we need to start with first 5 digits code, which is 32,003. So what does this mean? Medicare benefit schedule description. So 32,003 means large intestine resection of with anastomosis including right hemicolectomy. And 01 has we have different flavors here. 00 limited excision of large intestine with anastomosis. 01 is right hemicolectomy with anastomosis. 02 is laparoscopic. 03 laparoscopic right hemicolectomy with anastomosis. So for example, if you want to code right hemicolectomy with anastomosis, so first you need to check this block 32,003 first, and then you need to uh, identify the flavor related to your question here, right hemicolectomy with anastomosis. So if you check here, right hemicolectomy with anastomosis, and 913 is the colectomy block. So what is the Australian medical coding certification? As in US we have CPC is the basic certification, but after CPC we have nearly 30 certifications from AAPC and as well as AHIMA. But in Australia we have CCCC certification from HIMA. We will check in now. So currently in Australia they are converting to 12th edition of ICD-10 AM. If you see here, Introduction to ICD-10 AM, ACHI, ACS, 12th edition education. So this is the latest edition in Australia they are using. These are the modules you need to purchase and learn if you want to learn all these latest updates. So which just now we have talked about HIMA. So HIMA means Health Information Management Association Australia. So they will conduct the clinical coder certification. So previously we have seen CCC na. So this is the clinical coder certification. So clinical coder certification is two-part process. Part one is completion of the advanced ICD-10 AM, ACHA and ACS clinical coding course. Part two is completion of 2-hour examination. The results for each part are used to correct the final score of clinical coder certification. So basically part one includes you need to complete the ICD-10 AM, ACHI and ACS clinical coding course. In part 2, you need to complete the 2-hour examination. So here you need to get maximum 80% above 80% in order to pass in the certification. So this is the CCS certification. Here you can see the eligibility. To be eligible for sit for the clinical coder examination, candidates must hold a statement of attainment of HLT ADM 007, complete highly complex clinical coding and undertake highly clinical code as certificate achieve advanced. So you need to, in order to complete CCS, CCC, you need to complete all these basic courses first. Then only this is the final stage or final certification for clinical coder in Australia. So here we have the examination details. So see here the duration is 2 hours and consists of 6 handwritten medical records. The examination is scheduled for the first Monday in Friday, June and November each year. The examination date is public holiday, then the examination should be taken on the next business day. So here you can see the P here. So candidates who have received their HIMA advanced clinical coding course qualification more than 12 months ago, $185. So application details here. So these are the timelines in order to apply for CCC certification. So if you want more information about certification, just you need to go to the HIMA website and you need to check CCC clinical coder certification. So next we will let where can I work using Australian medical coding. So basically Australian medical coding is the one of the topmost medical coding in the world. So most of the countries like Australia as usual they will use New Zealand, Singapore, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Fiji, Tonga, Hong Kong and Bahrain. All these countries are using Australian medical coding. For example, if you want to go to New Zealand, if you know Australian medical coding, you can go New Zealand easily as a medical coder or clinical coder. So for example, if you want to go Singapore, but in Singapore they will use both ICD-10 CM and CPT and as well as Australian medical coding. So now we can see how can I search job in Australia. So in order to find clinical coder job in Australia, you need to open the website named as seek.com.au. So here you need to enter medical coder job. So usually in Australia they will call it as clinical coder. So here we will enter clinical coder. Clinical coder. So this website is seek.com.au. If you see here we have clinical coder Adventist Healthcare Limited, Sydney. So here if you want to apply for this job, you need to check this one. So if you click on this clinical coder, you will get the more information about that job. So we directly open the Adventist Healthcare. See here clinical coder Adventist Healthcare Limited, records management and documentation control, administration office support, full-time job is 3 days ago. So if you want to apply, you can apply from here. See here also, you need to know ICD-10 EM classification system. You need to know Australian coding standards and DRG assignment, and you need to master in or you need to know 3M code finder, and also you need to have good communication skills, and also you need to complete training on ICD-10 AM 12th edition. So in order to find job in Australia, you need to go to the seek.com.au and you need to enter the what clinical coder. So one more thing is that certification is not mandatory initially. If you are a fresher, you can try a job in any of the hospital healthcare system and they will provide you the opportunity if they are having the flexibility of providing the certification to the candidates. Thank you guys. Thanks for watching Fast Coder 21. Please like, comment, share and learn.